The code for the Story-Trolley is on GitHub if you're interested. My handle was Schäfer, and you can find it here. So there are two repositories, Trolley Client and Trolley Server. And the Ember application is in Trolley Client. So this is what you actually see, while everything related to hardware is in the repository Trolley Server. So this is just a basic Ember application. And it's already running. And this is how it looks like. So if you just run it, install the dependencies, and fire up a browser, you basically see this. So you have your shopping list on the left side. It's in German. And that's basically it. So at the very first step, you have randomized sample of the database as your shopping list, right? Now, here I have a terminal. There we go. What? How can I close the Node.js console? Control C? There we go. And you just have to run a Node server, which I'm going to do. So if you just type in Node, you have an interactive connection, and this is basically the code to create a web server. Hello. There you go. So this was very quickly, but it just immediately runs the code, and then you have a connection. So if you open the browser, the Ember application connects to this server via WebSockets. And then you can send messages to the client. And you can also use, for example, JSON to send multiple pieces of information. This is what we are going to do. So now I'm basically imitating an RFID read event. So we just took something out of the shelf, put it on the shopping cart, and makes beep. And the shopping cart somehow identifies this object. So what we can see here is, for example, Schlagsahne. And now I will look up the database and look for Schlagsahne. There we go. And we have 3 possible RFID tags, and we can send those RFID tags to the application. Yeah. So I hope you can see something. So we have the WebSocket connection, WS, and we send, and we send some kind of JSON to the application. Isn't the correct one? Yeah. Okay, so I'm now sending an RFID read event. This was our self-made language, one could say, in order to distinguish different events. And then we can optionally send some params, which in this case is just the idea of the product. So look closely. There we go. So it was very quick, and we just switched the display to another site. Maybe you can also see the product up here in the URL. And since we didn't turn on any of those priority switches, we don't see anything. It just says, please tell us what you are interested in. What are your priorities? And we can do that by sending another event. No. There we go. So for example, we could say we're interested into sugar. And then we see, okay, Schlagsahne has such an amount of sugar. Or we say we're interested into organic food. And it says it's not an organic product. Or regional food.
And how the user will pick the query?
No, this query is, I don't have the shopping cart right here. So from the user perspective, you just take the product, put it on the shopping cart, and the RFID reader is able to read the RFID tag. And on the server side, the server will send this message to the application. But I don't have the shopping cart right with me. It's in Lüneburg. And so I'm not able to demonstrate it. So I'm just using the WebSocket connections low level in order to send those events.
But the switches are triggered with these small switches on top.
Exactly. You have 4 switches on top and a left button and a right button for navigation. So if you can always switch the priority switches at any time, and the navigation is depending on the current display, on the current state. Right? Yes?
Is there any special reason why you guys decide to use FRIDs?
Why we picked RFIDs, not the optical barcodes, for example? No. Actually, you could do this with an optical barcode. The difference between those is the barcode gives you just the product type, which would be absolutely enough for our case. And the RFID tag is unique for every product. So you can distinguish 2 products of the same type. So you can distinguish 2 different packages of Schlagsahne, for example.
I did some research on that, at the university. I don't know how it is right now, a lot of years passed. And I remember FRDs were quite expensive. I don't know how does that stand for today. But I think you could even use different methods. You could use press QR codes, and with Raspberry Pi you can just have a webcam or something where they just impart the QR code and stuff
Yeah, that would be absolutely possible. So you can basically do whatever you want. And in our case, we use an RFID scanner because I think it was just there. I think a barcode would be enough. Yeah, sure. And of course, you can just use the barcode, and all you have to know is the connection between the code and the product which is in your database. Yeah. That's it. Okay, now I just turned on all those priority switches, and you can see the 4 pieces of information. And on the lower right, you can see, so the buttons for navigation are placed here and here. Since there's no label on the right side anymore, I'm going back. So I'm triggering the left button click now. Where is it? There is it. And we're back on our shopping list. This is how the system basically works. And Schlagsahne now has disappeared because we already put it into the story. All right, so this was the live demo. Do you have questions so far? Should I try anything else? Yes, please.
I have a question. So with WebSockets, you have to have the server client thing set up. Why not just map the hardware keys to actual key presses? So let's say the left one is A, the right one is B, and then have actual listeners for these key presses, and then it's just hardware browser and remove this.
Or just not emulate keyboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the keyboard driver is already there, and I'm simplifying, but the back-end side I would imagine being a driver that just takes in the input from the RFID and maps it back to specific keyboard events, and the browser already has keyboard event handling. So why do the extra mile?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we thought about this because it was, and in the beginning, it was quite a pain with those WebSockets, and we thought, why can't we just use, for example, a touch screen? Wouldn't be that enough? And Jacob basically said, no, I don't want to have a touch screen. In public areas, touch screens are bad because they never work. I want to have big buttons. So we had to use those buttons. And we can, of course, connect it to keystrokes, but
it involves the writing of a custom keyboard driver, which sounds really easy when I say it, but which it's probably not.
Yeah.
So also, if you just have 2 days.
It's probably hard for the RFID tag to send the data, because you would have to send some special thing and then amount of letters and then stop sending. And I can imagine that. I think for the buttons it would be quite okay to just send some letters, but if you want more than just a button or status toggles, it probably help to.
Yeah, I just think as soon as you have, you cannot use the ordinary browser API anymore. As soon as you have to somehow connect the server with the client, then it doesn't really matter. I don't think it will help you. I think connecting those two key events is an extra level of complexity probably. But it would be easier for debugging, especially for presentation purposes. I could just click, right?
So when you initially mentioned like the websites thing, I actually imagine like websites actually give you something interesting, like when you have maybe a supermarket, for example, and you make like discount for 5 minutes for special products, for example. You can receive it and like without WebSockets or like push API. And I think it's a great idea. Like,
Yeah.
really, like,
Every third customer at the cashier receives a 15% bonus.
yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I already thought about this a long time ago. I think it's a great idea. Like whoever makes it, it can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
How do you reset the list actually?
I think the reset is the so-called magic reboot. You just turn it on and off again, and there you go. Yeah.
So sorry for the hardware question again. Did you turn off the Wi-Fi on the Pi?
So it is. We don't need the Wi-Fi for the testing in the supermarket, because right now everything runs on the shopping cart itself, including WebSockets, the database, and the client and everything. If you would scale, then you would have a supermarket which has a Wi-Fi and a central database somewhere. What you
My concern is like you have a piece of hardware which is somewhat isolated, but if the Wi-Fi is on and you have a Node.js process running there on a rather static environment, which is Linux in the case of the Raspberry Pi, or what's the?
Yes, Ubuntu, Raspberry.
I mean, it's already hard to patch it from the outside because you need physical access to each device, and stuff like Spectre and Meltdown and what have you been, and like Node.js not being the most secure platforms of them all. And I would be concerned, especially if we wanted to scale, if we wanted to roll this out in a larger supermarket or in a larger chain even, like that's pretty small, like Walmart. Then I would be hugely concerned of some prankster script kiddie who just like uses the latest vulnerabilities.
Yeah. Yes, of course. So you are absolutely right. Those ideas come up when you think about scaling, and right now we just wanted to test this idea, build a prototype, get some feedback if people would actually use this, right? Because in the beginning I said, my friend Jacob, who had this idea, he has got a lot of crazy ideas, and we just do something and get some feedback, and then we think, well, okay, what's next? I don't think this is ever going to happen, this scaling, because I don't know his plans actually.
So what was the feedback of this woman you showed us before?
So the feedback was she would use it, but she tried to do some things like putting items out of the shopping cart, and we didn't thought about that. So the goal is to let her fail, and then learn from that and improve the prototype, or just do some kind of sanity check, right? But I think in general she was very positive about it. She was asking us, "Oh, you're testing it on Friday in a real supermarket. I want to be there too," right? So I would say she would like it. And by the way, I also have some pictures of the testing in the supermarket. So this is the prototype we actually tested in the supermarket. So we have this big area over here. Scan your product here, right? So people know. And you have the navigation buttons with colors, and also there are some LED lights indicating whether this is actually turned on or off. And yeah, and we had people testing this prototype. Fun fact, I thought it were just random people asked at the entrance. No, the people who tested this were people from the local church community, right? So Jacob has some friends who are in this community, and apparently they were very helpful. And he just asked them, well, we need some testing people.
Are they? Just asking.
Say it again.
And how crazy are they? Just asking. A church community
Yeah.
with a crazy leader.
Yeah. Anyhow, so yeah, they tested it, and the feedback was really, really positive. Here you can see a lady putting a milk on their RFID scanner, and apparently also comparing things, and then deciding whether she wants to buy it or not. So this was actually super positive, and I didn't anticipate it, especially in the beginning when I heard about this idea. I thought like, what? Like, no, this doesn't make any sense at all. And in the end, it was actually quite reasonable, I would say.